Hello, welcome to part 2 of the interaction tutorial. So in the last tutorial we set up the logic where we go up to a cup, press triangle, and then the cup kind of magically appears in his hand. But then in this video we're going to do the transition so that it's a much more smoother kind of animation that flows better. And it doesn't just teleport into his hand. So let's jump into it. So if you haven't watched the previous tutorial, I recommend doing that because I show you how to set up the logic for this basic interaction. Now we're going to modify the kind of logic that we have here so that there is a transition to when he picks up the cup. So to do that, we're going to separate the pickup item and then put that into a timeline. So we will add a timeline and we will call this pickup item animation. And this is where we can do character animation. So to do this, we will drag the pickup item keyframe that swaps the cup out into this timeline to around 3-second mark. And we will also change the playback mode to play once instead of sustain. And now there is some kind of timing to it. So now if we attach the counter full to the power of the timeline, the item will swap out at a certain time, so around 3-second mark. It doesn't really swap out, it just jumps. So to fix that, we can scope into the pickup item keyframe and then click on keep changes. So now when you do press triangle, it will stay in his hand like that after around the 3-second mark. Now all we got to do is create a transition so that the character actually picks up the cup. So what we need to do first is a positional keyframe to position the character in front of the cup. So let's say you walk in sideways, backwards, or something. This keyframe will reorientate the character to be in a position where we can do the animation. So to do this, we just go into the keyframe till it's recording, and then just drag the character so that he's standing in front of the cup. And it's as simple as that. This keyframe, we will call it the reorientation. And yeah, I'll show you what it does. So we'll drag it into the timeline, extend it out to around, 5 seconds, I guess. So we'll trim the timeline to be around this much. Now, I'm just going to demonstrate what it does. So if we go up to the cup and press triangle, the character will snap into position, which is kind of jarring. So what we can do with this keyframe is add in these fade in and outs at the start and end. So I'll rewind it and go through it again. So now when we press triangle, he will reorientate himself to pick up the cup and then step back. But we don't want him to step back. We want him to stay in that position after. So I'm going to reset the end fade and then click on keep changes. So now when he picks up the cup, like say if he's facing backwards and you press triangle, he will reorientate himself to face that direction. And then after the interaction is done, he will stay in the same position, and then you can move him out. And the last thing you want to do is create the animation where he's actually picking it up. So the easiest way to do it is just with one keyframe. And we'll solo this timeline out so that we know that it's what we're actually animating. So after the character reorientates himself, he is in position to pick up the cup. So all we need to do now is create a pose where he bends over and picks up the cup. And you can kind of add your own kind of spin to it or have more personality to it, but for this case, I'm just going to keep it simple and just pose the character so that he's actually picking it up. If we want a smoother transition, you can preview invisibility so that we can orientate the hand so that it kind of matches with the cup that's there, so that it's a lot smoother. Kind of fix the character so that it looks like his spine isn't breaking. And yeah, we'll do that. Now, if we press play from here, it's going to look pretty jarring because it's just for 1 millisecond. But maybe that's the kind of movement you want. But if you want it to be smoother, we can do what we did with the reorientation by adjusting these handles so that he actually there's actually ease in and ease out to this animation. And we will trim the timeline to around here. And the interaction is much faster. It might still feel a bit like rushed. So what we can do is extend and play around with the timing so that it's the way we want it to be. We can also adjust the springiness, so if we go 100% springy, he will do something like this. So he kind of flops around a little bit, but it adds a little bit more life and physics to the keyframe, like anticipation and overshooting, to make it feel a little bit more natural. So that's something we can play with as well. So yeah, that's how you can add an interaction in Dreams. And with the timeline, you know, you can add other things like sound effects. We'll search for MM sound. We'll add a ping to it. Something else we can do, we can add a cinematic camera to the timeline. So if we add in a camera like this and kind of trim it, we can scope into the gadget and then kind of zoom in like this to the interaction area. And we can also adjust the aperture so that it's more, cinematic. And also add in display bars. So now when you pick it up, it's super cinematic. Some other things you might want to do is also add like a flash to the triangle when you pick it up. So we can do that with another keyframe. And we can change the brightness of the kind of button mash to this and change the color slightly maybe. So now we'll attach the triangle to this and add a little bit of a slow in, slow out. And we'll call this the button mash. And now when you pick up the object, it will flash when you press triangle. It's actually probably better if we add the ping out here and have it ping when you press triangle. But notice like how you can always press triangle in this area. It's because the zone is always powering the controller sensor. So what we can do is on end trigger of the interaction, we can turn this off. So to do that, we can add another counter so that when the interaction is finished, it will turn this zone off. So on the end trigger of the animation, we'll increase the count on this. And then we can attach a not gate. So then when this is on, it will turn the trigger zone off. So now when you go up to it, you can't spam the triangle button anymore. So that is how you can do an interaction in Dreams. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.